Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. And we're moving along with this in-season tournament, Nate. We've got the semifinals here on Thursday night, so just 2 games that we are looking at. Feels weird. It's like the playoffs, kind of single elimination, though, like 2 game 7s in one night. And so we have to figure out who's going to play I guess, well in these situations. We know what we're getting from some teams. Never really seen the Pacers at all in this situation, nor the Pellies. But we'll get into our best bets in this one for both games, and then we will look at player props in our other video. So make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along each and every weekday this season. Also head to thelines.com. Use the odds finder tool up there to make sure you're getting the best juice on all of these bets you are making in the NBA and this in-season tournament this year. Nate, let's go ahead and get into your first best bet here that we've got for the Pellies and the Lakers in the Western Conference.
Yeah, I'll go under 230 in that Lakers game. I mean, overall thought is that these in-season tournament games are going to go under. They're going to be more like the playoffs. And, you know, now we're at a neutral site, which I kind of looked back at the game log. There's been a lot of unders when neither team has a determined home advantage. Granted, a lot of those games were in Mexico City at ridiculous altitude, but I mean, what we've seen in the in-season tournament so far is just better defense, slower pace, more of a playoff atmosphere, more intensity. I'm not gonna risk that with the Bucks Pacers under, as high as that total is. I would rather take the under than the over. It's a historical total, but yeah. So let's target this game under 230, under 57.5 in the fourth quarter if you want to go that route. Because what we saw with the Lakers, you know, I thought the Suns would just elevate that offensive flow in that game, and it was on pace for a lot of points through the first quarter. But then the Lakers got back on their playoff stuff, slowed it down. I mean, they struggled offensively in the second quarter, got back into it on defense. That Pelicans D is fantastic as well, despite the fact that they were at an elevated situation in Sacramento in their last game. So 2 good defensive teams here, playoff atmosphere. Lakers went under this total, Josh, 230 in 14 of their 16 playoff games last year. Despite, you know, as soon as they scored a lot, they held the other team down. So, and both of these teams, you know, they limit exactly what you would think the other team is trying to do. They're both top 10 in free throws allowed. They're both top 5 in paint points allowed recently. And both offenses are depending on free throw points, on paint points. So I think it could be a real, you know, physical game, turnovers, etc. Let's look at the Pelicans in these in-season tournament games. I mean, the overs were kind of obvious at Dallas at Sac. The unders against good defensive teams, Clippers, Nuggets, Rockets. They're you know, 3 of their 10 overs on the season are when they're on a back-to-back. They're actually 3-0 to the under with 2 days off. I mean, this 1 day off here, I guess, since Tuesday, but, you know, that shows kind of the rest discrepancy. They're 7-4 to the under after a win. The Lakers, meanwhile, have gone under in 3 straight of these in-season tournament games with a 102 defensive rating. They're 10-4 to the under when they're favorites. They're 5-2 when they have a rest advantage here. Under in 7 of their last 11 overall. But really, it's like the second half and fourth quarter stuff that I'm leading with off the top here. In their last 8 in the second half, the Lakers have struggled offensively, 107 offensive rating, pace slowed down. The Pelicans have slowed down to a 97 pace in the second half in that same span. And in the fourth quarter in particular, last game, the Lakers played at a 78 pace against the Suns. Very frustrating if you were trying to get an over there. 44 total points in the fourth quarter. The Pels, even at Sacramento, which usually is a very high scoring finish, very exciting, 92 pace, 53 points. So not sniffing this 57.5 even in that game environment that we might have in the fourth quarter. So that's the way I think we play this Western Conference semifinal.
Yeah, I do agree with this entirely, and it's fully predicated on the Lakers because, like, as much as we've seen them play as a fast-paced team at random points, especially last year, and obviously that was a point in time where they had a Mr. Westbrook, so that was a little bit different. And I get that. And then what have we seen since then is basically what my go-to. There have been the occasional fast-paced games that LeBron and team are willing to get into with a team like the Mavericks or whatever. I don't think that's not this game. Either way, it's going to be a little bit more bruiser ball because it's just sort of like both of them bringing in the bruisers in terms of Joval getting minutes, which he's averaged around 26 or more. And then you get Herb Jones in there as well. There's going to be a little bit more fluidity with New Orleans offense, as we've seen with Trey Murphy since he's been in there. But 230 is still too high for a total that like we could easily see, under 215 in this game, and to have that type of game that we saw from that Suns game where everything just completely slows down. And on top of that, like what I really saw from the other game was LeBron picks his spots, right? He really, within a game, he knows when he's about to, like, it was the second quarter and it was the fourth quarter. And in the first and third, he was like diamond up, diamond up. Second and fourth, he scored most of his 31 points in those two quarters. I believe he had 15 in the second. So, right, we're talking about a guy who's going to be very not active in terms of usage rate for large portions of the game, and that's what they rely on. Like, you saw how bad they were without him on the floor. That's just another thing. I don't know if they can go as long without seeing Austin Reeves again. Obviously, he was instant offense, and maybe it won't be quite as easy with the length of the Pelicans. Like, I do not like Austin Reeves in a matchup against Herb Jones, that's for sure. And even Trey Murphy being back, even more. Like, it was one of those things where when we were watching the Kings, I was immediately like, what the hell did I bet on the Kings for? I forgot that all of this length is exactly what screws them up. And now they have Trey Murphy back, which is like another 7'2" wingspan on a dude that's like 6'10". It's going to be a lot of, like you said, not necessarily like ugly turnovers as much as like forced turnovers and just really good defense and a lot of shot clock being used. So I agree with the under here. And I'm gonna let you go with the
38 paint points. They held the Kings to 38 paint points, which is incredible in the modern NBA. And Austin Reeves, you mentioned, has terrible numbers against the Pelicans in 5 meetings. Would not expect him to necessarily replicate the success he had against the Suns.
Yeah. For sure. Talk to us about the fourth quarter. So, because I just want to be clear, we are eyeing like the in-season tournament and using it as using like playoff historical data to help us with the context for what we can expect here. So, like, let's talk about the fourth quarter bets that we love to take in these types of situations as well.
Yeah, I mean, I broke it down with the pace. It just slows down to a playoff pace where every possession is hotly contested. We kind of saw this with the newness of the All-Star game, the Elam ending a couple years ago, right? Where it's just like, wow, NBA players playing really hard on defense. Like, it is hard to score when everybody is connected and playing really hard together. I mean, when you have Anthony Davis as the back line for this Lakers team, and when you have all that length that the Pelicans can throw at the Lakers, Herb Jones, Dyson Daniels, whatever they want to throw at the backcourt. I just think that there's good enough matchups to make it difficult for anybody to find points. You could always get a bad beat if like the free throw game is going back and forth down the last few seconds here with the fourth quarter. But as long as that doesn't happen, I don't think we're getting near 60 points in a fourth quarter.
Yeah. That definitely feels right with the way that things lock up on both ends. And the Pellies are still somewhat of an enigma to me because they can play as two different teams. But I think we've seen them as best when they're just attacking the rim on offense. Maybe they do want to fast break a bunch. But I think, by the fourth quarter, like you said, NBA teams that are carrying in games that they want to win, they're going to get back and actually play that D. So let me go with the pick that I have here for best bets because I'm going with another under with Chris Middleton, 14.5 points. And it's not necessarily like the best game for unders necessarily, but 14.5 is a high line for Chris Middleton this year, who seems like he's capped, no matter what the situation is, at about 26 minutes per game. I don't know if that's going to change much. Maybe they would consider it in a playoff situation or a different one than in-season tournament, even a regular season, because like that's all he's gotten, no matter the context this season. So he's gone under in 8 of his last 10, 9 of his last 11, 14 of 17 on the season. He doesn't go over 14 points this season. He's not involved in the fast break at all, which is going to be a big problem in this one, I believe. That's a lot of what you're going to see Indiana trying to do. Like, I don't think that they believe they can really necessarily score on this Milwaukee half-court defense when they have to get into the trees like that. So they are going to continue to rely on the fast break, as we know they do. Doesn't mean they're not going to get back. It's like they still tried and fast break frequently and often against the Celtics, who are just a really good fast break defense. This team is not quite as much, but Chris Middleton isn't involved either way. He has the lowest frequency of running out in transition of any rotation player on this team. Like anybody that's actually playing at least like 17, 20 minutes, he's not getting out more than anyone, like including Brolo. That they're basically not there together. They're staying on the defensive side most often either way when the Bucks are out in transition. And then that's where Indy's allowing the most points, also the most points in the paint. Another area that Chris Middleton isn't really frequenting right now. And he never has, and he never is supposed to be down there because then he's just getting in the way of guys like Giannis and Dame, who are both getting to the free throw line continuously, as we knew that they would. Dame's not near the 11 free throw attempts a game that he was when he was a Blazer, but it's a different offense. And so 7 is still very attractive for a point guard in terms of getting to the line. And that's why Chris Middleton's playing predominantly out there and shooting a lot of mid-range, as we continue to see, shooting a lot of threes. And so, I mean, he's going to need to hit a lot of threes, essentially, is what would need to happen. And I don't think he's going to hit 4 of them even to get you to like 12 points. And so he's only getting to the line like less than a handful of times, 3 times a game, because he's not really banging down low, not really continuing to get like offensive rebounds at all. That's not really his gimmick. So that's going to be a lot of what you see is like crashing the boards, crashing the paint for Milwaukee. That's going to be their game plan. And Chris Middleton's just not going to be involved in a lot of what they're doing often. So I think a lot of people who might take an over on a Chris Middleton bet will get frustrated if they were to like not see him entering their screen very often because of the way the pace of this game goes, you know?
Yeah, I like this. We're evolving. We're adjusting. We saw you took Al Horford against the Pacers 3 nights ago, and you're like, wow, the old GOAT is not going to stay on the floor here in this type of up and down game. These teams are both top 5 in pace. The Bucks are going to get whatever they want going to the rim. The Pacers are so vulnerable at the power forward position that, I don't think they need Middleton as much in this game to get it going from the mid-range. Everything is going to be like a 3 or going to the rim with Giannis and Dame controlling everything. I would look at Giannis and Barolo getting more points than Middleton in this matchup. Yeah. And that's where I'm going to go with the same game parlay here in the game with the historically high total. Giannis 30 points, and then some Halliburton stuff, because Lord knows we love Halliburton. 25 points, 9 assists. You can go 10 if you want. He has done that in every in-season tournament game. And 3 threes against this Bucks team. And that gets you to plus 140. I'm just trying to stay a little conservative and still get plus money. And I will throw in that you could probably split a bet on these two guys to win the in-season MVP. They're both about plus 450. Giannis is trailing Dame right now because Dame has been more efficient, more fourth quarter points. But I could see this being the game. I mean, we're talking about small samples here where Giannis just has a lot more production than Dame because of the matchup we're talking about. He averages 38 his last 8 against Indy on 68% field goal shooting, had 54 with Dame out last time these teams met. And I mean, obviously, if the Pacers are able to get past this one and Halliburton just, the ultimate, like, are you not entertained crowd pleaser, I could see him just lighting it up in the final against whatever the Pelicans, Lakers. I mean, the Lakers would be a fantastic matchup for him, right? He is way too quick for all their guards. And, he's just unconscious from 3 right now. I mean, since he went 0 against the Cavs in that first one, 51% from deep, hitting over 5 threes in this tournament. He's averaging 28 a game, 13 and a half assists. Milwaukee has allowing nearly 40% from 3 in their last 7 games here. They allow 28 points per game in their last 15 to the point guard position. So he should eat against Dame. We expect Giannis to eat in any matchup, but especially against this vulnerable power forward team. And so Giannis to score more than Dame here and get his 30.
Yeah, I'm with it. The Giannis bet I'm good with. I'm good with all of it, honestly. Like the Halliburton stuff, I actually wanted to touch on the potential of him winning the in-season tournament MVP. I'm not sure what you think about it at this point, because like to me, you have to win it according to the way that the projections are. Like you have to win the tournament to be like your team has to, right? So if they don't, has he not been the best dude? Like, would he not be sort of like, I don't know, if it was like the March Madness, it would be like he's the regional MVP or something at this point, and then I guess there'd have to be like a tournament MVP. Maybe we need a group play MVP because he's just been unreal, and I don't know why that would stop against this team who's just like you said. I mean, this is where they're weakest within their entire team on defense is right at the head of that defense where Dame is standing. Although they've moved him off to the wing a bit so that he's not really the spear of it, the tip of it, but like. He's still a weak point out there on the wing, and Halliburton's going to find that mismatch as he's continuously done. And good on him for like finding the right times to go in and drive. That floater game is unreal. He's at like 63% from the floor when he's shooting that floater. So he's gonna need it when he's going into the trees after he gets by guys. But I love him to get the 25, like you said. And that is all the time we have for you in Best Bets. Continue to follow along. Check out the Play Up Props video that we have up for you as well. Until we see you next, happy betting.